So Tom, how are you doing?
I'm good, Louis. How are you?
Yeah, very good, thanks. Very good, thank you. So I thought I'd give everyone a bit of a context on how we know each other. So I used to live in New Zealand and I lived there for about 13, 14 years and my mum was friends with your mum and your family. And then I heard that you were doing that's called the non-conventional path. You're going down trying to start a marketing company. And at the time, I was starting a marketing company as well. And we thought we'd hop on a call and chat and discuss a little bit and exchange some ideas on I know what you're doing or what I'm doing and how we can sort of like, I guess, yeah, bounce ideas off each other pretty much.
Yeah, for sure. Nah, it sounds good, and yeah, excited to have a discussion about it.
Perfect, bro. I guess we'll get right into it then. So what do you do to make a living? What's your
Yeah, so I've kind of been building my marketing agency probably for like the last sort of 8 months, roughly at this point, and I've kind of niched down more into like the retention side of marketing, so kind of email and SMS mainly. And yeah, we're starting to see some really good growth, and it's getting a lot busier. So I'm pretty excited to be in this space.
awesome, bro? Awesome, bro. And how old are you again? Just for like the viewers that are watching.
23 years old. Yeah.
The young entrepreneur. Good on you, mate. Good on you. It's good. It's
Yeah,
good to
cheers,
see.
man.
It's good to see. And what made you go down the route, I guess, of yeah, entrepreneurship and marketing and all that sort of stuff? What made you?
Yeah, so it kind of started when I was about 14 years old, actually. I was kind of just like, playing a lot of FIFA, esports and stuff. And that, I started selling coins and stuff at school. So you hear about people selling sweets and candy at school. I was literally just selling FIFA coins, doing wages and all that. And then that sort of led to, building a YouTube channel and, selling FIFA coins online and getting a taste of e-commerce. And then, over the years, I just tried a bunch of different ventures. Some succeeded, some failed. I got, a bunch of experience at different companies. And then eventually I was like, using all this experience I've built, I want to start my own marketing agency and grow it and see how far I can take it type of thing.
Wow, so you've been in the game since yeah for like what 23. So that's yeah a long time you've been in the game for. So good on you. Good on you for sort of I guess keep trying and not giving up after all those years. It's good. It's good to see. So, what
Yeah.
advice would you give to someone like a sort of young guy who wants to start a marketing company, like sort of our age, like, 18, 19, sort of 20, that sort of young age, just out of school,
Mm.
not sure whether to go through university or go through the main route or whatever it is, and some guys wanting to yeah, start a marketing company. What would you say to him?
Yeah, if you're dead set on doing it, I would say learn from my mistake is number one. Don't start too broad. Don't try and be like, I'm going to do anything for anyone. I would try and pick a part of marketing that you're most interested in, whether that's content creation, whether that's advertising, SEO, email marketing, SMS, whatever it may be. And try and find that as soon as possible. If you don't know what that is yet, try and get some sort of experience somewhere. Go to a marketing agency, be like, I'm willing to do this for free, and just really just get your foot in the game and foot in the door. And, what you'll find is once you have that first piece of experience, it should roll onto more things if you stick with it. And there's a bit of a chain reaction that can happen and it'll become a lot clearer over time. So I would say that's number one, just like get that experience in a specific niche and then hammer it until the results start coming in.
Hmm. And
Yeah.
you started off with what was your sort of start? What was your main thing that you went into first?
Yeah, so when you go all the way back, it was sort of just playing around with websites and stuff. I did some crypto stuff, which was a bit more sales orientated, middleman type stuff. I started getting more into content, really expanding on that content niche. There was a bit of advertising at various points. I think the weird thing was I just kind of bounced from project to project, and each time there were like different requirements. And that kind of helped me learn like a broad range of skills, but I never really hammered one particular thing. So it wasn't until literally this year where I was like, I realized the importance of that if you want to create a scalable business. And that was why I just really decided to hammer the retention marketing space, and that's what I plan on doing going forward. So yeah, it took me a long time to find that for sure. Like
Hmm. Hmm.
yeah.
Ah, good on you. Good on you. And who has been your most enjoyable client to work with or company to work with?
Yeah, so I would have to say, interestingly enough, I've worked with some mates a few times, and they've been working in different industries themselves, and they've got their own passions, and when you're sort of working for an agency, you're going to work across different industries and with different types of businesses. But like the ones where I've had the most enjoyment and passion in what I'm doing is when I can really connect with the founder and their vision. And then it becomes like, a harmonious relationship where you're sitting there, you're talking things through, you have creative ideas, you're thinking way out into the future about where this could go. And that for me is the most fun part about business. It's that kind of creative visionary state, I suppose. Obviously that's only one part of it. You have to like really dive into the operations and dive into the day-to-day in order to execute and make results happen. But I would say the projects where I had that connection with the founder made it a lot more enjoyable overall.
Yeah, like the relationship that you have and not being like sort of a work relationship, it's more like a work sort of friendly relationship, I guess.
Yeah, I guess. But it doesn't necessarily need to be a friend. Like, it's just like I think where there's that joint vision and where you have that time to discuss that and you can relate on it, I think is what kind of makes that happen.
Mm, mm, mm. And through like all the ups and downs, what's been the hardest part about your journey, would you say? Or there's a few things, maybe there's one certain thing that stands out to you the most?
Yeah, the hardest part about the journey has just been, entrepreneurship is filled with troughs and valleys as well as, growth periods. And you have to battle through those times. And I've had, my journey has been a roller coaster, essentially. There's been some extremely high highs and there's been some extremely low lows. And I would say, yeah, the most difficult part is navigating those lows and working out how to, evolve onto the next step without crumbling. And it's hard. It's definitely hard. And I remember, for example, when I was in the crypto game back in 2017, I kind of got in at the perfect time, so I was really heavily trading and doing crazy numbers and stuff I was like shocked by myself. And then
Wow.
so it was amazing for a period of time, and then I got on Twitter once I had a bunch of money and started listening to guys saying, get into these altcoins and stuff like that. And I just made some horrible investment decisions and, based on nothing. It's because I was a young kid with money who didn't know what he was doing type thing. So I've had to learn what it feels like to make a lot of money and lose a lot of money. That's one example. There was another time I started a business where I wanted to sort of create a sustainable almost food delivery type business and a different model from like Countdown delivering food and all that, kind of focus around the whole climate change thing. And I felt like I was doing it to please people. I think I was doing it for the wrong reasons. I made a terrible investment into a vehicle, like literally a one-seat electric refrigerated vehicle from China. And I bought it half-heartedly. My heart wasn't in the business at all. And I was actually sort of venturing into MMA around that time, and I was kind of in two boats. And I knew that my passion at that time was in MMA, but I wanted to like please people with the other business, and I made the investment, which was a lot of money at the time, into something that was just it had no legs to it. And so I actually decided to pull out of that business after making that investment. I took another huge loss, but I did it because I knew what my intuition and my heart wanted, which was the MMA path at that time. And I'm so glad I did, because that led me to where I am now. And sometimes you have to take those losses, and you're going to get all the opinions. You're going to get people questioning you. What the hell are you doing? You should have gone to university. Why aren't you doing? You should be working this job. Blah blah blah. What are you doing? You have to battle through that for months and months. And so, yeah, I'm grateful for all those experiences there.
And going back to like the crypto days, I can imagine being like the highs and lows of like, getting a big amount of money one day and then all of a sudden dropping again. Like, how do you deal with that? Like, what's your advice to someone that has to deal with going from, like having a lot of money at one point and then all of a sudden dropping? What would be your advice in that situation?
Yeah, it was a very tough period of time because I was 17, 18 years old. I'd actually had a really
Wow.
great year in 2017. So I was sort of trading crypto, doing insane money. I was going to the national athletics. I was getting top grades in academics and stuff. It was like a crazy year for me. And then
Wow.
it's almost like as the crypto graph went up, that was my life going up, and then when it dropped, it was like my life kind of flipped on its head. And I just went into a pretty bad space that year, if I'm honest. It wasn't just because of the financials. I think, obviously that played a big part. But I think I didn't know how to deal with highs and lows at that stage, and I didn't have that built-in resilience in me at that time. And yeah, it was just a very sad and depressing time for most of that year, and also battles with school, conflicts with teachers. I wasn't enjoying the school system. I had a lot of, I was quite against it, and I still, I'm still fairly against it in some sense, in the way that it's structured. But yeah, overall it was tough. So anyway, in terms of advice I would give for that, if I were to learn from it, you just have to try and keep good, healthy habits. I would say don't fall into bad habits. Once you start falling into bad habits, you can go down a negative rabbit hole that can get worse and worse. And at a certain point, you need to pull yourself back. So the question is, how early do you do it? And since then, whenever I take L's, I do kind of imagine my life like a graph a little bit now. So it's like maybe you have a couple bad days on a Friday and Saturday, let's say. You need to pull yourself. Let's say you went Monday to Thursday doing well, your graph went up. Thursday, Friday, you have a little dip. It's like, okay, you're going to let the graph continue to fall, or you're going to pick it back up. And so that's a decision you have to make, and that's resilience. And then to do that, it's all ingrained in your habits. It's things like physical exercise, it's healthy eating, it's going to bed at the right time. It's making sure you're going to work from 9 a.m. or 8 a.m. or whatever it is until this time, getting the basic things right. If you can do that consistently, even on your bad days, then your life will continue to progress. So that's probably the advice I would give.
That's really good advice. I feel like, even like you said, the whole fitness thing, even keeping that up, because I think I've had friends that go down the entrepreneurship business journey, and they have marketing companies and stuff, and whenever they fall out with the they fall out with the fitness stuff, everything else kind of falls out with them as well, because the whole thing, as soon as you let one bad habit go, everything else kind of falls with that and crumbles down. So you kind of got to, I guess, stop yourself and get back to the journey, I guess, get back on the mission.
100%. Yeah. I agree completely.
And when those negative thoughts come through, you feel like giving up, what do you tell yourself? How is there a certain strategy that you go through to get yourself out of it? Do you realize it's happening and then try to snap out of it, or what do you do?
Yeah. So nowadays, when I notice when the troughs are just in my week to week, it's when I'm exhausted, essentially, when I've been working hard and you reach, let's say it's the weekend and you're actually depleted of energy and your brain's kind of being like what the hell are you doing? That's what it feels like. And it's almost like you can't really get yourself to work, and it's almost like you shouldn't be working. And so I've realized the importance of rest. And it's like I realize as well, I don't know how to rest too well. So it's kind of been a challenge in itself. But yeah, I don't know. When I'm in those periods, you have those thoughts of what are you doing? What should I do? If I'm not working, what am I doing? I feel a lack of meaning in those situations. And I think the main thing to realize is the energy will come back, and it's going to come back in a day's time once you get a great sleep and you eat well and you maybe do a workout or something. And when you wake back up, you have another opportunity to grow. And are you going to be out of energy that following morning? No, you're not. So it's are you just going to give up the entire path, give up everything you've worked for? There's when you really break it down and think about it like we are right now, there's only one way, and that's growth. Okay, you could give up, but you're still going to have to do stuff. You're not going to die, right? You're just going to, I don't know. It's just I don't even want to think about it. If you start thinking about the worst possible scenario from a set of really poor decisions, it's a really horrific thought. Actually, that's an interesting point. Have you heard of Jordan Peterson and the There's that self-authoring program, and I did that, and that was really interesting. So that's basically you imagine your dream life versus your worst possible life, and you have to completely write about it and articulate it in the most detailed way you can. And the dream life is amazing, and it gets you super hyped up because you realize what you're capable of achieving when you just put your brain out. What do you want to achieve? If a challenge doesn't mean anything, and it's just the perfect possible scenario, and you describe the sequence of events, what would that look like? Versus if you continue to make the same horrible decisions from your worst habits consistently, what is the worst possible scenario that could happen if you continue to do those things? And the stark difference and actually how dark of a place the negative one goes versus how light of a place the positive one goes it's inconceivable almost. It's actually, and it gives you such like a threatening feeling going down the dark road that all you can do is go for the greater path. And so I know that deep down now, no matter what, I'm going to follow that greater path, no matter how painful it gets, because I just don't want to go to that other scenario, essentially.
And you've got that far into it, you can't just go back now and just go back and just accept a lower version of what you could be, really. That would just, it'd almost be insulting, wouldn't it, to like have that. So yeah, it's good on you for having that sort of that drive, that mindset. It's a really good mindset, and sure it will serve you well.
Cheers, man. Appreciate that. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So there's a obviously like Pareto's law. 80% of the outputs come from 20% of the inputs. What's your 20% task? What will give you the biggest bang for your buck? What will give you the highest leverage over your business and give you the most results?
Yeah, I think it just comes down to the fundamentals of my business and everything that I have to do to keep it, working and continue to sustainably grow. So, I mean, there's 4 quarters in the way I kind of think about it. There's the operating system, which is the day-to-day, and that segments into different parts of like email marketing and stuff like that. There's the sales element. There's the leadership development when you start working with other people and hiring and sort of bringing them into the team and helping them grow and, having a good relationship. And there's the next innovative campaign, what marketing are you doing for the agency and the business? And you kind of have to think about, and the finances, of course. So you have to think about all of those things. But for me right now, it's really just, improving my offering, improving, what we're providing and building more efficient systems for that, and working out how to scale it. And so, yeah, I guess the 20% is probably that operating system and, just really becoming a master in this game. But I'm very far from it, but that's the goal, right? So yeah.
No, that's interesting. Yeah, that's good. And what would be your visions for the future in terms of like maybe yourself, like your business? Where do you see yourself in the future? Maybe 5 years from now, maybe if you can think that far ahead, maybe 10 or whatever. Yeah.
10 years. Yeah. I want to see how far I can scale this business. I've kind of gone from more of a experience type mindset. I want to experience different parts of the world and try on different industries and businesses and relationships, stuff like that, to more of a, I want to focus on this one business, as niche as possible, as micro as possible, and let's see how far I can build that. To what scale can I build that? So obviously you set like revenue projections as a way of measuring growth and things like that. It becomes, obviously it's going to vary and it's going to go up and down a little bit. But I want to see that number continue to rise. And in terms of like, that's sort of on a, next, like, let's say next year, it's more sort of email orientated flows within Klaviyo and stuff like that. But beyond that, it's expanding that offering into different parts of retention, different software, different technology. I think AI is a huge opportunity as well. And it's something that we need to sort of be on. It's almost, I see it as a responsibility as a business owner in a way, because it's going to change the world so much over the next 10 years, next 20 years and beyond. So I think it's a mixture of, focusing on the day-to-day operations of my business, letting it grow, making sure it can grow, while also keeping an eye on future technology and working out how to integrate it into the business. That's just on a business level. And obviously I want to have a family, I want to have great relationships with the people around me. Those things are super important to me. I want to get more and more fit, in better shape, and just become a better person, make a larger positive impact. That's what I want to do, essentially.
That's a very good goal. And do you think you'll dip back into the MMA space? Because you did quite a bit of MMA. You did a couple of fights that you signed up for a year or two ago, was it? Would you ever go back into that whole fight space?
Yeah, so MMA is it was a really interesting journey. I think, when I was getting into it, it's hard to know exactly what attracted me to it. I think maybe I hadn't fully let that beast out, hadn't expressed my shadow. I hadn't taken on a high discipline routine before. It was, for this training I was doing for the fight I did, it was 5 days a week, getting up at 4:30 a.m., training hard 1 to 2 times a day, just grinding, kickboxing, wrestling, jiu-jitsu, stuff I'd never done before. And you're going up against another guy who's been training in that. And it forces you to grow your mind and build resilience. And so I'm super grateful for that experience. And, I did some work in it after that. One of my very close mates, Ollie Schmid, is fighting soon. He's fighting next month. He's got his pro featherweight debut coming up. And he's an exciting fighter, and he's someone I've always worked close with. He's a very close mate of mine, so I'm always going to be involved with it to an extent. And I think it's really good for young guys to try out, to some extent, to build that resilience. But from a sort of business point of view, it's going to be limited just because my job is kind of revolving around working in different industries, and you got to do what you got to do type thing in terms of the technology we're offering and the service we're offering. So to an extent is the answer. Yeah.
And I guess looking back on everything that you've done, what advice would you give to your younger self with what you know now? For example, if I was your younger self, what would you tell him knowing about the journey that you're about to go down?
What kind of age you reckon?
Let's say just finished school, in that position of like what's next, that position.
Right. I would say follow your intuition, live life to the fullest in terms of take the opportunities in front of you and go at it as hard as you can. No one knows better than yourself, like deep down, that deep intuition in yourself, and trust that it will all work out. And just keep working hard at it, and don't let anyone else's opinion define what you should be doing. Is probably the main thing.
No, that's good. That's good advice. And I think this is quite a big one. A lot of people have they struggle with, like, how do you deal with other people's opinions of you, like going down the path that you're going down, because it's not like the conventional route that most people go down. What do you say to them if people say, oh, why are you doing what you're doing, or like they kind of laugh at you or have certain opinions negatively towards you? How do you deal with that?
I think I'm lucky now that I've kind of built a good support system around me and like a good friendship group, people who are on a similar wavelength, people who see the world through a more entrepreneurial lens, and they understand that like it's going to come with sort of unconventional decision making. Obviously when I talk to people more outside of my network, you're going to get weird questions and weird looks when you sort of describe what you're doing. You get a lot of whys and hows and skeptical looks, and they're not necessarily expressing like, oh my god, that's crazy of you, because you do have I have some stuff to show for it at this stage, but you get a feeling leaving those like, oh, I just didn't connect with that person properly, and it feels uncomfortable, but you have to sort of just stick with your vision. You go home. For me, I think similar to you, actually, I've got a bunch of stuff written on my wall. I know what I want. I've thought about it deeply, right? I know that's come from within me, and I've put a lot of time and energy into that. And so no one's opinion can really deter that at this point. It's too strong, and I've built too much around it. So I know where I'm going, and I think it will work. And obviously there's going to be tough times, but yeah, no opinions can stop me.
It's like what Hormozy said about like having the undeniable stack of proof that you are who you say you are, like having that evidence behind you that you can say, well, I am the person I say I am because I'm doing this, I'm doing X, I'm doing Y, all this sort of stuff. So it's good to like sort of build that evidence. Like I think I really agree with that. And what would you say the worst piece of advice you've ever got? Like where you thought, what? That's just not what I want to hear. What's been one of those moments for you?
I think it takes me back to my school time, like sort of year 13. Teachers telling me what they thought is right for me, or being so authoritative with the right way to live. And I just find
Mm.
it funny looking, but go to university, get a job, like follow the path. I just find it funny looking at them now because it's like you teach business, but you've never worked in a business or you never started a business, for example. And it's just, I respect you. We need to learn, right? But I just think it needs to change a lot. And I just think the way that the school system was constructed, the way they were giving you detentions, the way they were, forcing that authority on you to do things that weren't necessarily beneficial to you, is funny to me now. So I would say the idea of following the path as the right way to live is like the worst piece of advice I've ever received. Like,
I guess like living on your own terms and kind of doing what you like genuinely want to do rather than doing what someone else has told you to do almost. I think it gives you a big level of freedom as well. Like you're sort of actually following what you feel like your purpose is, and like you're following your intuition, like you said before. I think you can get a lot of like sort of freedom, and I think also like pride from feeling that as well. Do you reckon you feel that sort of, you feel proud of yourself that you've gone down this and you're putting effort into your life, and you're doing things that maybe most people your age aren't doing.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. It's yeah, no, I'm very like, yeah, I'm proud of myself for like the work I've put in. Like it's been hard. Like, it's a lot. It's I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. You've got to be a certain type of person to recommend it to, where it's like, oh, I really want to do that. I don't want to do these other things. And to those people, all power to you. It's like you just got to go for it and embrace that uncertainty and work as hard as you can, and things will work out. So yeah, I'm proud of the journey. I'm excited to keep continuing that and just doing as much as I possibly can. And I don't know, just one more. It's just like you look outside of the system a little bit. It's like school has a perception of reality, right? That it's trying to give to the students. Like if you're in the online world, you can see a lot more than a school system can see. The world is just expanding, and there's so many different communities and things going on now that sometimes an idea might not make sense to one person, but it makes sense to 100,000 other people who know about something that person doesn't. So there's all sorts that you can do. You just have to find the opportunity, and go for it. Yeah.
No, that's good advice. That's a good sort of, yeah. It's hard because the whole, I guess everyone's mindset is all on school. It's like the perception that you were saying before. Like it's sort of the reality that have been created into our minds, and like we're kind of made to believe that there's not really much else out there. You know what I mean? And like it's kind of, and to try and explain that there's more to life to other people that don't see that extra life. It's really hard to like get that across to them unless you've done it, or you're showing from what you've done, your experience. So I guess so much of it goes unnoticed until it's done, if that makes sense. Like there's so many private wins that no one sees, and then like, the big wins, I guess, maybe come through, I guess. But yeah, it's not a, yeah.
I guess on that, like there are, and this is why like close friends are so important to me. It's like, those people that you went to high school with who don't see that, they're just going to become more and more distant. And that's the reality of life. Like you're going to end up having a certain circle around you who you have great relationships with, who you trust, whether that's, your partner or your close friends or your family, like, and that's all that really matters. Sharing those wins with those people, sharing the losses and going through that journey is what it's all about. And the people that you knew at one point in time, maybe you catch up occasionally and you kind of, you look at each other strangely because you're doing such different things, and who cares, man? There's so many different routes. So yeah, that's how life will probably evolve anyway. But yeah.
Very, very true. Very, very true. That was the last question I had there. So thank you so much, bro. Thanks for hopping on the call again, and thanks for and chatting and sharing your wisdom, sharing your experience, and hopefully this can be helpful to some guys that are sort of our age or younger guys that are in the same boat as us. And
I hope so. I really hope so. And no, thanks for having me on. This has been
You're welcome, bro. You're welcome.
Cheers, bro.
Take care, man.